Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. You gave me such a warm welcome to the talk I did on the 12 greatest box sets of all time, and it engendered such a lively discussion afterwards that I really felt that I needed to do a bit of a follow-up. But the 12 greatest box sets of all time, as I explained there, was really an attempt on my part to come up with a well-rounded selection, not necessarily my own personal favorites, but things I loved, but not the things I dip into most frequently, but something that really would give you, in 12 box sets, a pretty cool record collection, if that's what you happen to do. This is completely different because a lot of you talk to me about your personal favorites and things that you wish I'd mentioned. And so in this particular talk, I'm limiting the discussion to 6 boxes, all devoted to conductors. And these are all personal favorites of mine. And they were personal favorites of many of yours too. So we'll see where we're simpatico, I think, probably more often than not. And there may be a couple surprises in here too that you'll find intriguing. So without further ado, I want to talk about 6 fabulous, absolutely fabulous conductor boxes that everybody should have, in my view, and that I'm happy to have because I really do actually listen to them a lot and play with them. And as I mentioned before, you pet them and stroke them, and they're lovely. They make the cat jealous. All right, so first, who am I petting and stroking? Well, in a manner of speaking, figuratively, not literally, Guido Cantelli. The Guido Cantelli box. This was the Icon box. It was reissued now. This is his complete Warner recordings, and it actually, it comes with a documentary and all this stuff. It was all there before. It's not new. But, Cantelli was one of those great might-have-beens. He really was. He wasn't exactly a might-have-been, because we have what we have here, 9 discs of really superb music making. So that's not so terrible. And there's lots of live stuff too. But of course, he died in a plane crash. He was still young. He was Toscanini's personally groomed successor. He is probably an excellent example to what the younger Toscanini sounded like before he got older and sort of more rigid and rhythmically strict sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. And this is just a wonderful set. There are no bad performances. The sound is variable. Some of it's mono, but you get, Tchaikovsky's Fifth and Casella's Paganiniana, Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet, Siegfried Idyll, Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony twice, a very good Tchaikovsky Pathetique, Rossini Overtures, Schumann's Fourth, Brahms' Third, Brahms' First. Was that the first? Yes, that's the first. You also get the third here, don't you? Yes, the third, which is really good. As a guy who could nail the Brahms Third. And wonderful Debussy stuff, La Mer and The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and a Franck D minor that everybody thinks is one of the best, and I agree. These are marvelous, marvelous performances. They really are. And everybody should have this set. They really should. It's historically important and artistically rewarding, and it has practically no weak links. And that's really what you want in one of these things, right? You want to have consistent quality and excellence, and yes, you get it from Cantelli. Next, all of you mentioned the Silvestri box. I keep saying I have a problem reviewing this. Why? Because it's so great. What am I going to do? You take out the box, you say, this is great. Oh my God, that's great. This is even greater. Oh, this is fabulous. It gets very boring. It gets boring very quickly. And it's not boring. It's fantastic. Silvestri was one of those great unsung conductors. He was just like Hans Rosbaud when I talked about Rosbaud's Mahler. He was an astounding, brilliant, fabulous conductor who never had a career with, one of the big orchestras. We are lucky he recorded as much as he did. This set gives you 15 discs, and every single one of them has gems on it. It's just amazing. You get Tchaikovsky 4, 5, and 6. You get a couple New World symphonies. You get a Symphonie Fantastique. You get the Franck Symphony. Doesn't everybody used to do that, remember? You get a bunch of Sorcerer's Apprentices, Ravel, Enescu, yes, his Romanian Rhapsodies, which are unbeatable. An amazing Tchaikovsky Manfred. Just terrific. Matis der Mahler by Hindemith. I mean, Shostakovich Fifth. I could go on and on and on and on. An incredible Dvorak Eighth. These are just magnificent performances. He was one of those guys who just breathed soul into absolutely everything he did. And so there it is. There's the review, guys. It's great. It's incredibly great. You must get this while you can, because he wasn't the most famous guy in the world. The fact that it was reissued on Warner when it originally came out on EMI is a good sign. It may be an indication that it'll stay in print for a little while, but I wouldn't count on it. So if you don't have the Silvestri box, you have to get the Silvestri box. Make sure you have it. It's amazing. This one may be a bit of a surprise. I've been spending a lot of time kind of, trashing the Claudio Abbado boxes. And I really think that at his best, his best is not in the Vienna box and it's not in the Berlin box. Here's a box that shows him at his best. This is the Claudio Abbado Rossini box. He was the greatest Rossini conductor of the 20th century, bar none. The reason, I think, is because Abbado was kind of fussy and micromanaging, and Rossini was unbelievably fussy and micromanaging. I mean, Rossini was a guy, he was so fussy that he had a nervous breakdown. The conditions of operatic performance basically burnt him out by the time he was 30. And you can't blame him. I mean, this was a guy who dictated how far away the music stands had to be from each musician. If you look at his scores, and I've been following the Rossini critical edition that was edited by the late Philip Gossett, you see, on the one hand, unbelievable quantities of shorthand because he was writing very quickly, but on the other hand, amazingly detailed indications for dynamics, for articulation, for phrasing. I mean, it's incredible just how you could just look at it and you go, oh, obsessive compulsive. You just look at one of his scores. I can show them to you. It's really amazing. And I wouldn't say that Abbado was obsessive compulsive in that way, but he was extremely detail oriented. He was extremely interested in subtleties, in small details of texture and phrasing and accent. And Rossini was just the guy for him. And you get on this disc the Italian Woman in Algiers, La Cenerentola with Teresa Berganza, Agnes Balzas and the Italian Woman in Algiers, The Barber of Seville with Hermann Prey and Teresa Berganza, and Il Viaggio a Rams, that amazing recording, and that fabulous disc of overtures he did with the Chamber Orchestra of Europe. I mean, there is not a dull or uncharacterful note in this entire set. And if you really want, the essential Rossini in a box, simply, easily, and fabulously, the Claudio Abbado Rossini box is the way to go. It's a tremendous achievement, and one not likely to get much attention because nobody gets any credit for being a great Rossini conductor. But let me tell you, he's harder to do than Beethoven. Much harder, and harder to do well, and he deserves as much care, love, and attention. And that's what Abbado gives him. Oh, and look at this. Here's a real special treat. My goodness. This is Pierre Boulez conducting his own complete works. I'm just kidding. I mean, it's too big to be a coaster, but it makes a fabulous doorstop. It does. Moving right along. Oh, I love this box. I love this box. This is one of those things I never thought would happen. And I always make fun, of course, of the English for being English. And it's a joke, folks. It's all in good fun. It really is, because I love English music and English artists. And I just get so annoyed when the English critical establishment, the old boy network over there, they are so xenophobic and pompous, and they just don't do justice to the richness and diversity of their own musical patrimony. But every so often, because they're a bunch of nationalist xenophobic loons, they do something that only a bunch of nationalist xenophobic loons could do. And it's wonderful. It happens to coincide with what I want them to do. And here it is. The Charles Groves British Music Box. Oh, God, this is wonderful. Charles Groves was a wonderful conductor. He specialized in British music like Adrian Bolt did, and also Vernon Handley. I think he's much more interesting than Vernon Handley. And he had basically the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic. That was his orchestra. Not a great orchestra. He made them sound great. He played so much. There's so much good stuff in here. I mean, you get Havergal Brian's 8th and Ninth Symphony. You get the whole, that fabulous, the Hymn of Jesus. And he had to do the bridge disc with the sea and summer. And I mean, it's just a festival of fabulously played, enthusiastic, exuberant, well-recorded English music. Groves did the first Mahler cycle in England. I wish that had been recorded. I'll bet it was terrific. He was just a great conductor. One of those, he was a bit like Charles Mackerras, and one of those guys who was incredibly musical, full of life and vigor and enthusiasm. And this set, which has 24 CDs, I mean, there's just all kinds of juicy, wonderful stuff in here. And, this Delius is fantastic. And you got, 4 discs, 7, 8, 9 to 5 discs of it. I mean, amazing. The Mass of Life. I mean, it's just great. If you love English music, and I love English music, 20th century English music, you've got to get the Charles Groves box. You really do. It's fantastic. And again, it's on Warner. I thought it was going to disappear within seconds. It didn't. Maybe because the English are crazy and they support their own artists, whether they're any good or not. They did the same for Simon Rattle. Okay, fine. They have no sense of judgment, but they did Charles Groves. So I'm delighted. Thank you for doing Charles Groves. That's a treat. Next, this just came out, or I think it's pretty recent, but I mean, the stuff in it isn't so recent, but this is a wonderful disc. The Theodore Kuchar Brilliant Classics box. I mean, how many people even know this stuff exists? It's so depressing. This is marvelous. What did Kuchar do for Brilliant Classics? He did 3 discs of Dvorak. All of the orchestral music basically except the symphonies. You get the tone poems and the symphonic variations and the Czech suite and all this, a hero's song, and which is one of the symphonic poems. It's marvelous, and overtures, Hussite and In Nature's Realm and Carnival. It's just wonderful, wonderful stuff. He didn't have a great orchestra. It's usually the Janacek Philharmonic or the Ukraine National Orchestra of Ukraine. It doesn't matter, because Kuchar, again, he's a conductor who galvanizes his forces to do their best work. And because I have permission to use samples, I'm going to play you a little bit. This performance of the Dvorak Symphonic Variations is the most exciting thing I have ever heard in my life in that work. It's one of the great Dvorak performances, and I'm just going to play you a tad of the fugue that comes at the end. Just listen to how he does this. It's thrilling. Absolutely thrilling. See what I mean? And that's just Dvorak. You also get 3 discs of Smetana, all the orchestral music, the Triumph Symphony, the Swedish tone poems, and a really good Mavlast. Remember I did a talk on the Moldau where I said Zell was the only guy who gets to the end of the Moldau correct? Well, Kuchar gets it too. He really does, with less gimmicky recording. And it goes to show you, because some of you commented that Zell must have doubled the trumpets and whatnot. I don't think he had to. And Kuchar does it. He doesn't double the trumpets. And you get exactly the same effect. And it's just incredibly, incredibly impressive. And then there's 3 discs of Shostakovich, including, the jazz suites and the film scores and, all that good stuff. And it's again, splendidly done. You get the gadfly music, and it's marvelous. And a first-class Nielsen cycle, which I talked about in going over my Nielsen symphony cycles, again, with the Janacek Philharmonic. I mean, phew, but he gets them to play like demons. It's a terrific, terrific Nielsen cycle. And if there's a little ruggedness or raggedness periodically in the string section, doesn't matter. The music can take it, because when the interpretations are as bold and forthright as these, it's doesn't make any difference. And finally, there's a disc of Spanish stuff with the Venezuela Symphony Orchestra Sinfónica de Venezuela. I mean, whoever paid attention to that? But you get Estancia by Ginastera, and you get, all the usual stuff, Huapango and the Batuque by Fernandez, and, some other things from Revueltas. It's a very, very exciting set. Again, always with Kuchar, you have that vitality, that energy, that vivacious approach to the music making that's just winning. It's just a pleasure to listen to. And all of these conductors that I'm talking about had that quality. They really did. And it's so much fun going through this. So, the Kuchar box on Brilliant Classics. Inexpensive, 13 CDs of fantastic music making and wonderful repertoire, because you're probably not going to have all this stuff everywhere else. It's very, very convenient for your Smetana collection, your Dvorak collection, your Shostakovich. It's really just great. And you get a fabulous Nielsen cycle as a bonus. Finally, last but certainly not least, this is, I think, one of the most smartly curated, rewarding, and surprising boxes that has come my way in many a year. I wrote a big review about it already. If you're a Classics Today insider, you saw it. But I want to talk about it again because I just can't push it more. It's inexpensive. It's amazing. It's 30 discs. It's like, Gerard Schwarz on Naxos. This is not just Naxos stuff. This is stuff that they licensed or they got from his earlier career on Not Such an EMI. So it's got a bit of everything. And wow, Schwarz put this together himself. He obviously knew what the good stuff was. He always had amazingly imaginative and bold choices of repertoire. He did all that American music for Delos that was reissued on Naxos. Some of it is in here. I can't even begin to tell you how much great stuff is in here. It's astonishing. I mean, you get the Schrecker Chamber Symphony with the Hindemith Kammermusik 1. Remember that disc? It's fantastic. Schwarz was also a really first-class Brahms conductor. Most people don't pay any attention to that, but there's a very, very fine Brahms cycle in here and an amazing recording of the first serenade with the Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra. I'm going to play you a bit of that. I want you to hear it. It's as fresh and lively and new sounding as anything you'll ever hear. It's glorious. Here. See what I mean? It's just great. I mean, there's interesting Richard Strauss. The Tan Suite, the dance suite after Couperin. I mean, that's in here. You get weird Rimsky-Korsakov. A lot of the Snow Maiden suites. You get Shostakovich's 10th. You get a really fine Dvorak's 6th Symphony. And the Wind Serenade. I mean, first class, absolutely first class. You get a whole bunch of weird little Baroque things with Schwarz playing the trumpet and the cornet. Remember, he was a first-class trumpeter, and so he plays the trumpet on a few of these discs. And there's a whole pile of contemporary music. There's Elliott Carter's The Minotaur. There's David Diamond's Rounds and Fourth Symphony. It's just wonderful. I mean, you look at this, every single disc has got some sort of treat on it that you're really going to want to hear. It's a fantastic box. And like I said, it's very inexpensive. I mean, you just can't do better than these. And if you're going to have a box, that's going to sit around on a shelf, I mean, what's the point, really? It just takes up shelf space. You want something that's going to be full of music that you're going to want to listen to. This is one of those boxes you can dip into it anywhere. You just pull out a CD, throw it on, and you'll be smiling within seconds. I guarantee. So the Gerard Schwarz box on Naxos, absolutely fabulous. And those are my half dozen, for me personally, essential Conductor boxes. The boxes that have so much joyful music making that I can just go into them anytime and play something and love it. Really, it's a wonderful, wonderful series of sets of discs, and you should get them while you can, in my view, anyway. So keep on listening, folks. Here's a lot of stuff to keep on listening to, but you'll notice that with these particular boxes, I mean, the most is the Schwarz. It has 30 discs. I'm not going for the insane 100-disc mega box things, so maybe there's a chance you can get through these stuff, and they're also, for the most part, quite affordable. And I hope this has given you some food for thought and some ear candy on top of it all. Take care. Thank you.